What's up, everyone? I'm Dom Farrow. Welcome back to episode number 5 of Turf Watch. I'm going through all the awful Steelers takes so you don't have to. Right now, the Steelers are 2-2, moving forward to Week 5 against the Ravens, a familiar foe and the greatest rivalry in all of football. I don't care what you have to say. It's not the Packers and the Bears. It's not the Eagles and the Cowboys. Nothing comes close to Steelers versus Ravens. I know that Steelers fans and probably some Ravens fans are feeling like this one isn't quite living up to the expectations that this rivalry has given us in the previous years. Steelers 2-2, sitting at 500. The Ravens 3-1. They're in first place in the AFC North, so this one's going to be huge as always. But after last week, I know fans aren't feeling super optimistic after the Steelers lost 30-6 to the Texans, one where they were favored by 2.5 points. This week, the Steelers are 4.5-point underdogs to the Ravens, over-under at 38, which is one of the lowest point totals in all the league this week. They don't think the Steelers' offense can score. They haven't really been able to score. Lamar Jackson, he's always struggled against the Steelers, so I'm not expecting too much out of him. AFC North divisional rivalry, it's always going to be a close contested matchup, but I don't think it's going to be the high-flying explosives. It's going to be a defensive battle like you saw in the 2000s. It's going to be an interesting matchup. It's a big matchup for both teams, and I know the Steelers fans, they've had a lot to say after last week's loss, so we're going to get all into that today and take a look at how Steelers fans are feeling, how the media's feeling, and also how the Ravens fans are feeling going into this matchup. Last week on the show, I said that the Steelers, if they lost the game to the Texans, that we'd be right back to step one. And I was exactly right. All the things that you were hearing around week 2 before they beat the Raiders, you are hearing it again. The Steelers can't win. They can't move. On the offensive side, Matt Canada needs to be fired. Even things saying like Tomlin should be fired. There's a 90% chance that fans will be booing Matt Canada and chanting "Fire Canada" on Sunday. Fans are upset, and it makes sense because I'm upset as well. The teams that I grew up watching, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben, that offense is gone. This tweet says, the Pittsburgh Steelers have not scored 30 points and won a game since Week 10 of the 2020 season, a span of 45 games, which is the NFL's longest streak of such. That's embarrassing and unacceptable. People in the comments saying the same thing. Tomlin said that the changes that are going to be made weren't going to be organizational, but they'd be more of padded practices and things that aren't going to drastically change the offense. So people in here calling them out for that. No need for change. AKA Steelers haven't had an explosive win in 45 games. So glad Tomlin thinks our play calling is perfectly fine. It's just bad. It's very tough watching a team like the Chicago Bears run up and down the field, score 40 points, and the Steelers haven't done that since 2020. 45 games, we haven't seen that, and we just watched the Bears lose their last 15 games or so, and they dropped 40 points, and their offense looks night and day compared to the Steelers. So outside of the comments that have been made about Matt Canada all this season, I'd say Kenny Pickett is second in line to being the guy who's being bashed the most. There are a lot of people who are saying, let's see Mitch Trubisky some more. Pickett did get hurt towards the end of that Texans game. Trubisky, I don't think, has looked worse than Pickett, but I don't think he gives you much of an upside. Now, something that was interesting this week, former Steelers defensive lineman Chris Hoke, he thinks that Mason Rudolph gives the Steelers the best chance to win moving forward. He says, I think they need to go down a little deeper in that depth chart and bring up Mason Rudolph. I think Mason could arguably be the best quarterback on the Steelers roster. To me, he throws a nice ball. He has good command of that offense. He's very mature. I'd say give the ball to Mason and see what happens. Very interesting stuff. For coming from a former Steelers player, Rudolph has never been great. He's never been significantly better than Pickett. He's never been significantly better than Trubisky. There's a huge reason why you brought Mitch Trubisky in the first place, and it was so you didn't have to start guys like Mason Rudolph. Something that I think has been very interesting this season is watching Josh Dobbs and the success that he's had in Arizona. Very difficult situation he was put in, and he's been balling out. I would have loved to have seen the Steelers give Josh Dobbs an opportunity, a fair opportunity. I don't know if he was given one here. I'd like to know what you think. Rank these 4 guys. Who'd you like to see start? Pickett, he's a first-round guy, but he hasn't been proven himself. But outside of that, I'd say Josh Dobbs is that second guy. He's been better than Trubisky or Rudolph has ever been, and it's a shame that he left the organization the way he did. Here's some more Kenny Pickett opinions. He says, I mean no disrespect to Kenny Pickett with what I'm about to say. He's no Ben Roethlisberger. He never will. Kenny Pickett is Kenny Pickett. I don't care what he's been saying. The Steelers have to sit Kenny out for Sunday's game. It's not worth it to risk further injury. I don't think Kenny should sit out in this upcoming game. I think it's important for him to get as much experience as he can early in the season. These games are so important. This divisional game could mean everything once you get to Week 18. Former Raven Bart Scott, he took a shot at Kenny Pickett this week. He said it's no fun when the Rabbit has a gun and your quarterback stinks and ours is an MVP. Now you see what it feels like to be on the other side trying to stop a Hall of Famer when you got a guy over there with a pea shooter with Junior Whopper hands. Okay, so this one's crazy. There's a lot of things about it. I don't know. He says, now you see what it feels like to be on the other side. So is he saying that Joe Flacco was kind of a bum and Big Ben, obviously a Hall of Famer? I don't know what Junior Whopper hands means. And Lamar, he is an MVP guy, but is he a Hall of Famer? I'm not sure about that. Can't go that far just yet. I think he's good. I think he's been great this season. Former MVP, so this is weird. Weird comment by Bart Scott. Chris Mueller on Big Ben, Kerry, and Tomlin, he said if you're going to make the argument against Bill Belichick that Tom Brady was responsible for a lot of his successes, you have to make the argument Ben Roethlisberger was responsible for Mike Tomlin's successes. Man, I don't know if I am fully on board that Tom made Bill. Obviously, Bill struggled since Tom Brady isn't his starting quarterback. He's still one of the greatest of all time. You still respect him, just like you got to respect Tomlin and all that he's done. A guy in the comments brings up a good point. He said, you forget about 2019, a season we had Duck Hodges, and they still didn't have a losing season. People are also forgetting about last season where there were tons of unpredictable things. Tomlin's first season without Ben, and they still have a winning season, almost sneak in the playoffs. I think this is foolish. I don't think you can be saying this about Tomlin with the success that he's had with and without Ben. He's proven that he's one of the best coaches in the league. This year, there's still a lot to prove, a lot that's been out there where you can judge him, but you can't hate on the guy for the success that he had, and you can't deny that he is an all-time NFL head coach. This one hurts a little bit. This is ESPN and their predictions for this week's game. All four of them going with the Ravens. It hurts the most because you got Ryan Clark, former Steeler, and he's rolling with the Ravens. I think he's one of the best analysts out right now. I trust him, and because he's saying this, it hurts a little more, Bart Scott there again, with his comments, you can't trust what he's saying. He goes Ravens, and Mike Tambaum and Dan Graziano, they also say Ravens as well, so not looking good from a national perspective on this game. Here's a depressed Steelers fan in his tweets. He's got some honest Ravens predictions. He says they have more 3-and-outs than points scored. He says the Zay Flowers will have 9 catches, 189 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. Steelers will have 13 total points with 1 defensive touchdown, 2 field goals. Joey Porter Jr. will have 0 catches allowed on 21 snaps, still won't start next week. Some of these ones are interesting. I kind of like this tweet. Very pessimistic, but it's interesting. Joey Porter Jr., still not a starter. He's played great. You draft him early. What more does he got to do to get some more playing time? I'm not sure. I think he'll continue to shine. I think if Odell Beckham gets matched up with him, I think Joey Porter locks him up. Zay Flowers, I don't think he's quite on the caliber of the receivers the Steelers have let up big points to. I think Nico Collins is a better receiver than Zay Flowers, and Devontae Adams, no doubt about that. Steelers secondary has been not great the past couple weeks, been very tough, but I think this one will be a little easier. With Lamar's history against the Steelers, with the inexperience of this receiving crew outside of OBJ, I think Steelers defense is going to do pretty well. Offense, I don't have many predictions for this one. I don't think the more 3-and-outs and points scored, that would be a lot. That would be a lot of 3-and-outs. So that's obviously foolish, but there will be a lot of 3-and-outs. The offense will struggle. It's just how the offense is working this year, and there's nothing that looks to be changing that. So it's clear that the Steelers have been missing some guys. No Cam Hayward, no Deontay Johnson. losing Terrell Edmonds and Cameron Sutton in the offseason, it hurts. But some people are bringing up Deontay a lot more lately. Do you think he would change the offense? Do you think this offense would be working better with him? I don't think so personally. This guy says George Pickens is a wide receiver number 2. Small sample size, but he's ineffective without Deontay the same way Juju was ineffective without AB. Sorry to bust some of Ian's bubbles, but that's facts. No one is better at wide receiver on the Steelers than Deontay. And George Pickens, I think, has been more effective this season when Deontay's not there. So I really don't agree with this one at all. This one hurts. This is post-Week 4 NFL Power Rankings. Last week after the Raiders game, Steelers were hovering around the 10 spot, and after getting wiped out by the Texans, they're now at 18. Texans jump up to 9. This just shows that every single week things are going back and forth. You know, right now Steelers fans, they're down bad. They're saying this team's awful. They're never going to win a game again. They're never going to compete for a Super Bowl. Just 7 days before that, Steelers fans were saying, okay, this team's for real. We might be making it to a Super Bowl. Defense wins championships. So every week things are going to change. If they get a win, you're going to be feeling great. They're going to be moving up these power rankings, which mean absolutely nothing. And if they lose, they're going to continue dropping. But at the end of the day, each week there's going to be different things to say, and you can't overreact to all these things. I think putting them at 18 below teams like the Colts, Packers, I don't think Jaguars have been necessarily impressive. Saints haven't been impressive at all. I don't think they're quite that low. They aren't quite a top 10 team just yet, but I think this is a bit of an overreaction right now. You know, I mentioned Cam Sutton earlier. He's been having a pretty good season this year. He's only allowed 113 yards against him through 4 games, just about 30 yards a game. He's been performing very good. I think right now, with the way this defense has been letting up passing yards, I think it would be nice to have this guy on the team. It's a shame, but wish him the best. It's good to see him doing good in Detroit. All right, let's go over here to Steelers Reddit. Let's see what people are saying. Former Ravens GM sees little creativity in Steelers offense, and he feels for Kenny Pickett. It's not what you want to hear. So it's very basic in what they do. It's not very creative. To me, the biggest thing with being an offense coordinator is let your players do what they do best. Take advantage of what they can do, and then it's about matchups. Completely agree. All season I've been saying watching this offense, get the ball in their hands. You got to get the ball in the playmakers' hands and let them do what's best. Kenny Pickett is not the most athletic player on this team. We knew that when we drafted him. We knew that the guys around him would be successful. You look at teams like the 49ers, Brock Purdy, not some crazy athlete, but he finds ways to get it into his playmakers' hands, and that's what the Steelers haven't been able to do. So I don't think it's unfair at all what this former GM is saying. It's completely right. AB's been making the rounds. He posted this on Twitter this week. Let's check out this Ravens subreddit. You know, they're just hyping themselves up. They're saying that Dick Butkus compared Roquan Smith to himself. They're saying Jadeveon Clowney's been awesome. They aren't saying a lot about the Steelers right now, surprisingly. Oh, they did throw up this most interception-worthy throws, and Kenny Pickett is up there. He's got 8 worthy, 4 which have actually been intercepted. Guys above him that are quarterbacks of teams that are ranked higher on these power rankings, like Mac Jones, Desmond Ridder, Jordan Love. I mean, this isn't as bad as it thinks. He shouldn't be up there with these guys. But the good news is it's a lot of young dudes, and then Josh Allen, who's a stud. So does this mean anything? I don't know. Interesting that was posted in here, though. Ravens, it's also been over a year since they scored 30 or more points. Theirs, though, was September 2022. Ours was in 2020. Tough stuff. Patrick Peterson, a little quote. He's talking about Zay Flowers. He said it's going to be fun to keep an eye on that little munchkin. So that's pretty funny there from Pat Pete. And we love to see that. I think they're going to go into this one with a little bit more confidence. Like I said earlier, I think secondary steps up. Not sure about the offense, but I do think it'll be a close game. I can't give you an official prediction of if they'll win or if they'll lose, but I can tell you that'll be a good game, and that's what I know for sure. So we'll wrap this one up right here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Turf Watch, and I'll talk to you guys next time. I'll see you guys at the game on Sunday. So here we go, Steelers.